I believe that bots which are acting against humans would cause harm because it does create an unfair playing field. So one example I will cite is the movie ticket office, Ticketek, and they have concert tickets which they sell. And what would happen is, and this has happened in the news, someone would go onto that website, buy all the tickets, and then the people who actually want to attend the concert, they would have to go buy the tickets from this scalper or this reseller at 3 times or even 4 times the original price. And it's really taking advantage of this supply and demand situation. So the supply is limited and the demand is there. So normal folks who don't have access to these bots do actually have a disadvantage because they want this product. They're genuine consumers and they don't have the same opportunity to gain that product. I think botting should be prevented as much as possible. So going back to the idea of captures, we do need to have the right technology to prevent bots from participating in online forums, online shopping, any kind of commercial activity, because it does actually create this disadvantaged space. Even though I say bots should be managed in some way, they will skyrocket. We're going to have a lot more bots coming and it will be ever increasing. The demand for a bot is the same for the demand of getting the advantage. So whoever understands that having the bot gives you some advantage over others, that will simply drive the market to produce more bots. Yes, there are a lot of anti-bot technologies. You could look at the commerce websites when they have the captures, like I mentioned, verifying they're not a robot. The best anti-botting technologies actually come from computer games. Okay, surprise, surprise. So online gaming has actually become a big industry, esports. And because these games are played in a network environment, one needs to verify if you're playing against a human versus playing against a computer or AI. So they actually have a lot of technologies, and some of the technical features include looking at how fast a response is for an action to be made. So for instance, if this sneaker was going on sale and someone was purchasing within milliseconds of clicking one button to the next button, okay, some might say, well, that's humanly impossible. Okay, you simply cannot move the mouse fast enough for that to happen. So there are certain technical features that say, well, this exceeds the human limits of what person is capable of information processing or mechanically acting and providing input back to the computer, and therefore we can identify that this is an automated action. Similar activity can be detected by looking at certain network activity, so how many requests per second, how much bandwidth is being consumed, but mostly it's about reaction time. Okay, interesting. We can try and regulate a lot of botting activity, this internet domain, and unfortunately the internet is still a bit of the wild, wild west. So it's very hard to police something which is on the internet. And Australian Federal Police is one such organisation who tries to police things on the internet, including child pornography and any kind of trafficking activity or illicit activity. But it is something which cannot be prevented entirely. So the policing is an effort, and I think we should keep up with that effort. When we talk about botting, yes, we can try and police it, but we have to also value how many resources are we putting into policing versus the benefit that we obtain. So for the Australian Federal Police, that is something which we can clearly say, yes, we have to put in the resources. When we talk about botting, what kind of thing are we trying to protect here? Are we trying to protect the consumer's ability to fairly compete for certain products? What are the value of those products? What are the implications if the consumer was not able to have that equal power in that marketplace? And I would find that that is not as significant as something like, of course, children. But if we start talking about botting with regard to industrial espionage, if we start talking about botting with regard to international relations, that's something where it might be very, very important. So if there was a dramatic shift in politics, if there was a dramatic shift in economic trade as a result of botting, definitely we need to ramp up that activity. But I fully endorse the regulations, and part of those regulations would be to enforce the use of captchas to confirm that there is a bot or not. It would be to have, and this is something which I'm sure a lot of IT companies would knock back at, have a consultant, security consultant, come in and give a report on the efficacy of preventing bot activity on one's website. So that means, let's say Gumtree or eBay or PayPal, they're all in the same building on Kent Street. But let's say the consultant visits there, they can go there, they can investigate the websites, they can perform some testing in terms of penetration testing and see if the bot was successful, and they can give a report. Now that might be a cost to the company in terms of time and of course eventually money, but it is something that someone on the outside government level or even consumer level can say, okay, this website has been tested and has been confirmed, and I have some confidence that when I shop there, if I want to buy my concert ticket, I will get a fair go. Okay, so I believe those kinds of regulations can exist. It is something which a lot of small businesses would suffer because they might not have the resources to have someone perform the reporting, consulting, pay for them. So this is where the balance of, if you're a big company, easy. If you're a small company, it makes your life that extra bit harder. And I don't want to make life harder for the small company. So this again goes back to the interests of the company. Usually a company is one which is profit-based and is driven by those. They may have some loyalty to their customers, but it could just be ultimately about profit. Now, if they have bots who are purchasing products and they sell out, and that means that they have a successful marketing campaign where it was a complete sellout, and now they have moved stock, and now they've turned over for more stock to come in, more stuff to make sales and make commissions, they might not have a problem with that. So they are interested in, like I said, profit motive. Whereas if you have other companies who value their customers and wish to provide some quality assurance, they would then try and be very proactive about preventing these bots, making sure it is a fair playing field. So with your question, you asked me if there is a company who knowingly has this bug or allows these bots to happen. Okay, I would think it's mostly because of this profit motive. And then there's another reason, which is going back to small businesses. They may not have the resources or the know-how to tackle that problem. Some of them don't even know they have that problem. So in the United States, about 50% of the businesses don't even know they've been hacked. And this is from a report by the top intelligence organizations in the United States. So this is one of the most alarming things. When we talk about cybersecurity, some people don't know what's even going on their website. So we have to think about the level of skill within the organization, and even if they have a tech person available, and someone could even look at the network logs or the transaction logs and just perform some basic checks and say, okay, this looks funny. We've got 5,000 transactions within the past 15 minutes. Okay, even just someone looking at that would alert them to the fact that something funny is going on. And then the next step is, who are they going to talk to? They have to find a security company, and do you look up the yellow pages, or do you find this on a website? You have to go word of mouth. So there's a few barriers because it's not a standard business process. And I feel that this is one of the problems. We have a shortage of security consultants who can actually advise on something like botting.
Is there any
I'm not aware of any such committee because this is not considered a cybercrime, and even the definition of cybercrime is very difficult. A telecrime was one which was a crime committed using telephone. So you could rob a bank, and if you used a telephone to organize the robbing of the bank, that was a telecrime. Okay, or if you're, scamming someone through a telephone, that's a telecrime. Computer crime, if you use a computer to do something illegitimate, then that is also considered a computer crime. And the definition of computer crime is extremely vague in that sense because we use computers for everything. Now, whether or not the botting activity alludes to a criminal activity, that's the biggest thing. Because if there is a criminal intent behind it, for instance, if someone was able to use a bot to prevent someone from selling something. So for instance, they perform a denial of service attack. Okay, that would be a very different thing because there is a criminal consequence. There are some, what are those things called when the court decides here is the outcome, and then there are several sentences, several laws which they cite and say you've violated this particular act, this section, you've violated this particular act, this section. So those exist. So we do actually have something which says if you've committed a crime and it was related through a computer, then you can be criminalized for it. So far, based on our discussions, we're talking about online shopping and commerce activity. The person who is losing in this case is the consumer. So the consumer, we have to try and measure their loss, and if they have a parallel in the real world about their loss that they can make in court. So just imagine we didn't have computers, and just imagine that I wanted to go to the markets and I wanted to buy certain goods that are at certain prices. And actually a good example of this would be baby formula. So baby formula in Sydney, this is controversial slightly. Some mothers wish to buy the baby formula. Doesn't matter if it's online or offline. They go to the supermarket, they want to buy it, it's not there. It's been bought out by other people. So there is no crime or there is no court that they can go to get that. They could complain to the ACCC and say it's unfair, we're not getting an opportunity, and the retailers then have to respond to the customer base for their reputation. So there is no legal recourse for them to get action. But for the reputation of the company, they try and do something for those single mothers, or not necessarily single mothers who want the baby formula. So I think there is a mechanism already in place to preserve the integrity of the consumer's rights, and that is through the reputation of the company. And with social media, I think that's the best mechanism. Just make everything public. You're allowing on your website these bots to buy out, the 200 sneakers that you had on sale, and I didn't get a chance because of the bots. Okay, so this is a claim that can be made, and I think the public is the ultimate justice court who can help make these changes happen.
So that's why it makes this bot like a gray area.
That's right.